The world was wrapped in white. The wind whispered across endless plains of snow, carrying the soft sound of frozen silence. It was a time when the earth still breathed heavily from the cold, when every night stretched long and slow, and the stars seemed to hang lower, closer to the breath of humankind. Beneath a ridge of ice and stone, where a cave opened like a quiet mouth in the mountainside, a small tribe of early humans gathered. The fire at their center glowed faintly, its light flickering over the rough walls, painting moving shapes of warmth and safety in a world that had almost forgotten the meaning of either. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of smoke and damp earth. Shadows danced gently across fur-lined sleeping pits carved from dried grass and moss. The warmth of animal hides was precious here, each one stitched carefully, each layer a small victory over the merciless winter that raged outside. The wind hissed at the cave entrance, but its claws couldn't reach the people within. They were protected by the rocks, the fire, and each other. In that small chamber of ancient life, time slowed. You could almost hear the heartbeat of the earth through the stone. The tribe had learned the rhythm of survival and the secret of peaceful sleep. Their days were filled with struggle, hunting, gathering, mending tools, finding water under thick layers of ice. But when night fell, and the stars began to glow through the frozen mist, something sacred happened. The noise of the world faded. They gathered around the small fire, their faces bathed in amber light, and they listened to the elder's low, humming stories. The elder's voice was slow and deep, rising and falling like the wind itself, carrying the memory of things older than anyone there could remember. And as he spoke, their minds began to drift. Sleep came not as a sudden collapse, but as a gentle arrival, a quiet surrender. The fire cracked softly, the wind moaned in distant valleys, and the tribe's breathing fell into rhythm with nature itself. Outside, the ice age stretched endlessly, cold and vast. But here, inside the cave, was warmth, calm, and a deep connection that few in the modern world would ever feel again. The ground beneath them might have been frozen stone, but with the warmth of the fire and the safety of the tribe, it felt like home. Their bodies were tuned to the pulse of the planet. When the fire dimmed, their dreams began, dreams of summer plains, green forests, and rivers flowing without ice. They dreamed of mammoths and sunlight and laughter. The cave, filled with their steady breathing, became more than a shelter, it became a cradle. And in that cradle, humanity learned what it meant to rest deeply, not just to sleep, but to belong, to be safe in the arms of the earth. Each crackle of the fire was a reminder that even in the coldest age, there was still warmth somewhere, if only you could hold on to it. Tea. The soft rustle of furs, the gentle sigh of a child falling asleep, the quiet hum of the elder as his voice faded into the dark, all of it blended into a rhythm older than time. The Ice Age might have been cruel, but it also taught the first humans a truth that we have nearly forgotten. Peace is not found in silence or comfort alone, but in connection to the fire, to the land, and to each other. As the night deepened, the stars blinked faintly above the clouds, and snow drifted past the cave mouth in slow, ghostly flakes. The world was still, the air frozen, yet the small glow from within the cave was proof that life endured. The tribe, now asleep, dreamed together, their breath rising like smoke, merging with the breath of the fire, the cave, and the earth itself. The Ice Age roared outside, but in that sacred shelter, humanity slept not in fear, but in peace. The fire was more than light. It was life. Every flicker, every soft crack of burning wood was a heartbeat that kept the cold from swallowing them whole. Around it, the tribe rested, 6 souls bound together not by words, but by instinct and trust. Their shadows trembled on the cave walls, bending and stretching like ancient spirits whispering through stone. The flames reflected softly in their eyes before sleep claimed them, the warmth painting their faces in hues of gold and amber. Outside, the frozen wind sighed and howled, but within these walls, only peace remained. The world beyond was harsh and merciless, but here, surrounded by stone and fire, the Ice Age could not touch them. The cave itself seemed alive. Drops of water echoed softly in the distance, falling from frozen stalactites. The air held the faint, sweet smell of burned pine mixed with musk from animal skins. The elder, the keeper of stories, stirred slightly, pulling his fur cloak tighter. His name was lost to time, but his presence was as old as the fire itself. He had seen many winters, and he understood the cold not as an enemy, but as a teacher. To survive it, he once told them, you must listen to it, listen to the rhythm of the land, the whisper of the snow, the quiet patience of the moon. Those lessons lingered in the minds of the young even as they drifted toward dreams. One of the youngest, a boy barely old enough to hunt, lay closest to the entrance. The cold air brushed his cheek like a curious spirit, and he opened his eyes for just a moment. The night outside shimmered under the stars, a vast ocean of silver light scattered over white plains. He could hear the soft crack of ice shifting in the distance, the muffled thump of snow falling from trees, and the low, haunting call of something wild far away, perhaps a wolf, perhaps the wind itself pretending to be one. But he wasn't afraid. He watched the faint glow of the fire reflecting off the icy ground outside the cave and felt safe. It was as if the fire's warmth reached beyond the stone, touching the world and reminding it that life still burned. He turned over slowly, curling into the warmth of his fur bedding. Beside him, a woman, perhaps his mother, breathed steadily, her hand resting gently near his back. Each breath was slow, deep, and steady, like the rhythm of the sea. That rhythm filled the cave, a quiet symphony of life that even the coldest wind could not silence. The tribe slept in harmony, not by chance, but by ritual. They had learned the language of sleep, to rest when the fire glowed low, to rise when the sky turned grey. Their bodies followed the pulse of the earth itself. It was not the hurried rest of modern people, it was a deep, sacred surrender. Sleep was their bond with nature. As the fire dimmed, the elder opened his eyes one last time. He gazed into the embers, their glow reflecting the distant memories of summers long gone. He remembered green valleys, rivers flowing freely, and warm sun on his face. The world had not always been white and frozen. It had once been alive with color and sound. He smiled faintly at the thought, because he knew, even under the ice, the earth was only sleeping too. Someday, warmth would return. Someday, his people's children would wake to a world reborn. With that thought resting softly in his chest, he closed his eyes again. His breathing slowed, matching the rhythm of the fire's final crackles. Outside, the stars shifted slowly over the sky, their light glimmering through thin clouds of frozen mist. Time moved differently here, slower, quieter, almost like it was waiting. The night stretched on, but the people inside the cave were untouched by fear or loneliness. Their dreams wove together like threads of smoke, connecting them across the still air. They dreamed of warmth, of hunts, of rivers that sang. Their spirits wandered through those dreamlands, gathering stories that would someday be told again by new fires, under new skies. In that stillness, something sacred unfolded, the deep, forgotten harmony between human breath and the heartbeat of the planet. The Ice Age may have ruled the land, but inside this cave, something far stronger was at work, the simple, enduring peace of belonging. And as the wind roared again outside, the small flicker of firelight continued to dance, the eternal promise that even in the coldest night, warmth would never truly die. Sleep had wrapped the tribe like a gentle mist. The cave fell silent, and the fire burned low, no longer a roar, but a soft, glowing heartbeat. In that stillness, dreams began to bloom like flowers beneath snow. For the cavemen, dreams were not separate from life. They believed the soul wandered freely while the body rested, walking through invisible landscapes where ancestors and spirits spoke in whispers. As they slept, their minds drifted beyond the walls of stone, floating through a world untouched by time, carried by the breath of the cold night. The young boy who had gazed at the stars was the first to dream. In his sleep, he found himself standing in a vast meadow untouched by winter. The grass shimmered in gold and green under a sun he had never truly seen. The air smelled of warmth and wet soil, and he could hear the hum of insects, the distant rush of a river. He looked down at his hands, smaller, lighter, and felt no cold at all. A great figure appeared before him, tall and calm, wrapped in furs of light instead of animal skin. The figure smiled, its face both familiar and unknown. It did not speak, yet its presence filled the boy with understanding. The cold is only a season, the sun will come again. The boy reached out, but before he could touch the light, the dream shifted like mist, carrying him away into deeper sleep. Elsewhere, the mother dreamed too. Her world was made of sound, the crackle of fire, the rustle of fur, the gentle breathing of her child beside her. But beneath those sounds was something older, the rhythm of the earth itself. It pulsed through her body, reminding her that she was part of something vast and eternal. In her dream, she walked through a cave filled with glowing walls. Ancient drawings came alive, dancing in the flicker of unseen fires, deer running, mammoths moving in slow grace, hunters calling to one another without words. She saw her ancestors painting these walls, each stroke a memory, a promise, a way to say we were here, we endured. When she woke, she would not remember the details, but she would feel lighter, braver, as if some hidden part of her had been strengthened by the dream's warmth. The elder's dream was deeper still. He wandered through a field of stars, his feet sinking into soft clouds of light. Around him drifted the spirits of those long-gone faces he had once known, voices that hummed in a language too old to name. They welcomed him without speech, their presence calm and eternal. One of them, a woman with eyes like molten amber, placed a hand upon his chest. "You have taught them well," her eyes seemed to say. "When the sun returns, they will remember the way of sleep, the way of warmth." He nodded slowly, understanding that his time would soon end, but his lessons would not. The stars above him shimmered and folded like waves, carrying him gently back toward the cave, toward his resting body and the glow of the fire. Outside, the Ice Age night deepened. Snow fell in silence, thick and soft, blanketing the earth in purity. A lone wolf moved through the drifts, its fur silver in the moonlight. It paused near the cave's entrance, ears twitching. The faint scent of smoke and life reached it, and for a long moment, it simply listened to the rhythm of human breath, to the peace that filled the air. The wolf tilted its head, then lay down near the rocks, curling into a small mound of fur. It, too, closed its eyes. In this frozen world, even the wild creatures sought the same comfort, warmth, stillness, the sacred quiet of sleep. Back inside, the fire sighed softly, collapsing into red embers. Shadows danced over the sleeping faces of the tribe. Their dreams intertwined, weaving together into something unseen but powerful, a shared vision of survival, of belonging, of hope. The Ice Age could freeze rivers and bury forests, but it could not touch the inner warmth of dreaming minds. For in those dreams lived everything they had lost: sunlight, laughter, the green of trees, the scent of rain. Through their sleep, they kept the memory of the living earth alive. By the time the first light of dawn began to seep through the cave's mouth, the dreams faded like stars at sunrise. The fire was almost gone, a faint shimmer in the ashes. Yet everyone inside the cave slept peacefully still, wrapped in warmth that came not just from fur and flame, but from something deeper, a quiet knowing that even in the coldest age, peace could be found in the simple act of closing one's eyes and trusting the night. The first light came quietly, as it always did, not in a burst, but in a slow, silvery unfolding. The Ice Age dawn crept across the land like a whisper, brushing pale gold over fields of endless snow. The wind softened. The sky, once black and star-cloaked, began to bloom with faint color, soft pinks, ghostly blues, and the faint shimmer of the rising sun. Inside the cave, that light reached the stone walls, gently touching the sleeping faces of the tribe. Their fur coverings glowed faintly in the new light, as if each was wrapped in morning itself. For a few long moments, the world remained in perfect balance, half dreaming, half awake. The elder was the first to stir. His eyes opened slowly, adjusting to the dim shimmer of dawn. For a while, he did not move. He simply listened to the faint hiss of dying embers, the slow, deep rhythm of breathing around him, and the distant call of a bird breaking the silence outside. The sound was fragile, pure, and full of promise. It had been many days since such a call had reached them. Perhaps spring was nearing, he thought. Perhaps the long winter was beginning to loosen its grip, even if only by a breath. He sat up slowly, his joints stiff from cold, and placed another branch on the fading fire. The flames caught weakly, then grew, casting amber warmth across the cave once more. The boy woke next. He blinked at the faint light spilling in from the entrance and smiled sleepily. His dreams still clung to him, the green fields, the shining sun, the tall figure of light. Though the details faded, the feeling remained: hope. He reached for his mother's hand, still resting near him, and gave it a small squeeze. She stirred, smiling even before her eyes opened. There was no rush to move, no demand from the day. They had learned long ago that survival was not in haste but in rhythm, the rhythm of waking, of fire, of breath. The cave remained still except for the soft crackle of fire and the sigh of wind weaving through narrow cracks in the stone. Outside, the snow glowed under the new sun, each flake catching the light like tiny shards of glass. Steam rose gently from the fur of the wolf sleeping near the entrance. It opened one eye, lifted its head, and stared toward the horizon where light met land. The wolf's breath shimmered in the cold air before it turned and looked back into the cave. For a moment, it watched the humans not as prey, not as threat, but as something strangely familiar. Then, without a sound, it stood, stretched, and disappeared into the morning mist. Its paw prints trailed across the snow like symbols, quiet proof of life continuing, even in the frozen silence. The tribe began to wake one by one. No words were spoken yet. Speech seemed too loud for the fragile peace of dawn. They moved with a kind of reverence, feeding the fire, wrapping furs more tightly, preparing for another day of cold. But beneath their movements was something soft and sacred, a quiet gratitude. They had survived another night, another test of endurance. The Ice Age had taken so much, yet here they were breathing, alive, and together. The mother brushed frost from the cave floor, the boy stacked kindling, the elder watched the light play over the stone walls. It was an ordinary morning, but in its simplicity lay the deepest beauty. As the sun climbed higher, its warmth began to touch the edges of the cave. The light grew bolder, painting golden veins along the rock and glimmering on the icicles hanging from the entrance. The elder stepped closer, feeling the faint heat on his weathered hands. He closed his eyes and took a long, steady breath. Each inhale felt like a small victory, each exhale a prayer of thanks. He remembered his dream, the stars, the voice of the woman, the promise of the returning sun. And now, standing in its pale light, he knew the dream had spoken true. Even in this frozen age, warmth would always find its way back. The tribe gathered near the entrance, watching as the land awoke. Far in the distance, the snow glittered like crushed diamonds. The wind carried the scent of pine and earth, faint but unmistakable signs that the world was not dead, only sleeping. They stood together in silence, wrapped in fur and hope, their breath rising in gentle clouds. The elder placed a hand on the boy's shoulder and nodded toward the horizon. "The sun still remembers us," he whispered. The boy smiled, his heart swelling with quiet wonder. Around them, the day unfolded slowly, peacefully, like a dream lingering just beyond waking. In that moment, they were more than survivors. They were part of something eternal, the endless rhythm of night giving way to dawn, of darkness yielding to light. The Ice Age might rage for centuries, but it could never silence the sun, nor the human spirit that waited faithfully for its return. The tribe turned back toward the warmth of the cave, the fire alive once more, the memory of dreams still soft within them. They had slept through the coldest night and awakened to life again. Night would return, as it always did. The sun, no matter how bright, would sink again beneath the horizon, and the world would fold once more into shadow. But the tribe no longer feared the darkness. They had learned, through countless nights of cold and silence, that peace was not something to be found in the light, it was something that lived within them, steady and eternal. As the elder sat near the cave's entrance that evening, watching the pale gold fade into silver twilight, he felt that peace settle deep in his chest. The Ice Age winds whispered outside, soft and distant, but they no longer seemed cruel. They were only the breath of the earth, old, patient, and alive. Inside, the tribe prepared for another night's rest. The boy fed the fire, carefully arranging the branches so the flame would last until morning. The mother checked the furs, brushing away frost, making sure every corner of their sleeping space was warm. The elder spoke few words, but his presence guided every motion, calm and deliberate. When the fire began to glow bright again, they gathered close, not out of fear, but out of ritual. Their sleep had become a sacred ceremony, a reminder of their bond with the land and with one another. Each night they repeated the same quiet pattern: feed the fire, share warmth, breathe deeply, surrender to the dark, and in doing so, they created something modern life has long forgotten: the rhythm of trust. As they lay down, the cave filled with soft sounds, the rustle of fur, the faint sigh of flame, the slow breathing of those surrendering to dreams. The boy closed his eyes, feeling the weight of sleep draw him down gently. His mind drifted toward the images that had begun to shape his nights: fields of green, sunlight on rivers, the tall figure of light. He no longer wondered if they were dreams or memories. Perhaps they were both echoes from before the ice, promises from after it. He smiled faintly in the darkness, and soon, his breathing slowed to match the others. The elder lay awake a little longer, listening to that rhythm, steady, human, ancient. It was the same rhythm he had heard all his life, the one that reminded him that they were never truly alone. Outside the cave, the world shimmered in frozen silence. The snow reflected the moon's light, turning the landscape into a sea of pale fire. Somewhere far away, a wolf called long, low, and hauntingly beautiful. The sound drifted through the air like a prayer. The elder heard it and closed his eyes. He understood that the wolf too sang to the same rhythm, not of fear, but of belonging. In this frozen age, every creature shared the same breath, the same heartbeat beneath the ice. The stars above spun slowly across the sky, vast and endless, watching over them as they slept. Time moved gently, folding the night into the ancient pattern of rest and renewal. Hours passed, but the fire never died completely. Even when the flames sank into embers, their light pulsed softly like a living heart. It glowed on the stone walls, on the painted symbols left by hands long gone: spirals, animals, sun shapes, all reminders of a world that continued to dream even through the coldest centuries. The elder stirred once, his hand brushing the earth beside him. He could feel its pulse, faint, but steady, the heartbeat of a planet asleep beneath ice. "We are only a small part," he murmured quietly to himself, though no one could hear. "But we remember." With that whisper, he too drifted into sleep. In that sleep, they became part of something eternal. The wind moved through the trees, the snow fell softly, and the moon watched in silence. All across the frozen world, other fires burned, other tribes dreamed. Every breath, every heartbeat joined the same song, a quiet, ancient melody that spoke of warmth, of hope, of survival. The Ice Age would pass, as all ages do, and new worlds would rise from its frozen memory. But the way they slept deeply, peacefully, in rhythm with the earth, would remain. It would live on, carried in the bones of their children, in the instincts of generations yet to come. And even now, as you listen, as your own breathing slows and your thoughts begin to fade into stillness, that ancient rhythm stirs once more. The same calm that filled the cave thousands of years ago lives in you too. You are part of that same story, a distant echo of the first humans who learned to trust the night. The cold cannot touch you. The noise cannot reach you. There is only warmth, only breath, only the quiet peace of sleep. The fire glows. The stars watch. The world rests. Sleep now. Just as they did. Peacefully, through the Ice Age.